Right now on the National Weather Desk. Torrential rain leads to deadly flash flooding in West Virginia. Several people are still missing this morning.
I've been doing this for 35 years. I've seen major floods here in the city and the county. I've never seen anything like this.
While in San Antonio, survivors of last week's deadly flash floods recount their close call.
The water just came in like a tsunami.
But the back end of my truck, current took it.
Firefighters are making progress battling a wildfire east of Portland, Oregon.
By the way, you're going to lose everything you worked hard for in about 5 minutes.
Important information to help you protect yourself from the sun's harmful rays.
SPF 30 is going to block out 97% of UVB rays.
And what does it take for Mother Nature to produce not one, but two rainbows?
In most cases, the double rainbow is there. We just can't see it.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Well, good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Eileen Whalen. Well, at least 5 people are dead and 3 others missing following a flash flood in northern West Virginia. Up to 4 inches of rain fell in just 30 minutes Saturday night, and that was simply more than this apartment building could handle. You can see here the water pouring off the roof and through the windows. The water also submerged cars in the city of Wheeling. Now, the director of the local emergency management agency says it's the worst situation that he's seen in his 35 years. Now, among the victims is a 3-year-old child. Claire O'Neill is in Ohio County, where a state of emergency is in place this morning.
I've never seen anything like this before, ever. I've never experienced anything like this, and it was just devastating.
Karen Shaw, owner of Rising Up Yoga, says she was shocked to find her yoga studio had been flooded. The entire block with other local businesses along National Road in Wheeling, where her business sits, was also flooded. Crews were out picking up debris near the roads, with some areas needing more time than others. Several cars remained in Wheeling Creek awaiting retrieval. The Ohio Valley Mutual Aid set up to serve people affected and assess the damage.
With all the mud that comes into basements, even first floors in this case, we're shoveling it off, power washing we're able. And that's one of the harder things whenever, your home or even your basement has that layers of mud in it.
Rabbi Joshua Leaf at the Temple Shalom says they were fortunate with just mud and debris on their lawn, but are praying for those in their congregation and beyond.
We've had a few congregants who suffered catastrophic losses, and we're going to do what we can to be of help to them. Our bigger concern is the overall community and our friends and neighbors who are still suffering, and those who are not yet accounted for.
Although there is more to be done throughout the entire county, Shaw says it's great to see a collection of people coming together to help.
I have people randomly coming in off of the street to bring us coffee, to bring us meals, to help clean up mud. They are spending their Father's Day here cleaning up this studio. I am so grateful, and I would not want to be anywhere else.
Well, now to San Antonio, which is still recovering following last week's deadly floods. 13 people died on Thursday after more than 6 inches of overnight rain flooded roads, sending cars into a swollen creek. Now, the last of the victims were recovered over the weekend. Firefighters rescued more than 70 people across the city. 2 men who survived the floods sat down with reporter Phil Sterling to discuss their harrowing experience.
Daniel Perales says he first entered the Loop 410 access road going towards Perrin Bidle on Thursday during rough weather. He says he passed other drivers who were on the side of the road, stopped in water about 6 inches to a foot high.
My vehicle is an SUV. It's lifted, it's got a 4-inch lift, and it's got high, large size tires, and I figured the water wasn't even up to their tires.
But then high water jammed him into a guardrail.
The water just came in like a tsunami.
Trinidad Escamilla went down the same road and was stuck behind a driver who stopped in front of him.
But the back end of my truck, current took it. And when it took it, I got hung on the guardrail.
Side by side, their cars, which you can see in this shot, watched others float into the creek next to them.
I saw about 4 cars go by there.
But it wasn't just cars.
All of a sudden, I heard a big old boom on my truck. And I thought it was a tree or something like that, and it was a guy.
He started rolling down the window, but when he looked up, he disappeared. But Perales saw what happened.
He survived it by jumping in the back of his truck.
Perez says he understands driving into water is a dangerous situation, but for some of those he passed waiting to see the water recede, they should not have lost their lives.
Well, San Antonio shouldn't see any more rain today, but areas in the northern plains could see some severe storms. The Storm Prediction Center issued a level 3 out of 5 risk for central Nebraska and southeastern Minnesota, including the Twin Cities. Now, a level 2 risk is in effect for all the areas that you see here in yellow. So these storms will be capable of producing severe wind gusts, large hail, and even a few tornadoes. Well, tracking the tropics this morning, and Tropical Storm Delilah never made landfall, but the effects of the storm caused a big problem in Acapulco along Mexico's Pacific coast. There were mudslides and flooding there. Now, the National Guard was deployed to help with search and rescue efforts. Delilah has since been downgraded to a post-tropical cyclone. Well, the National Hurricane Center is now monitoring another area of low pressure southeast of what was Delilah. It now has an 80% chance of becoming a named storm over the next week, and it could impact southern Mexico. While the eastern Pacific has been active so far this year, the Atlantic has been very quiet. Meteorologist Noah Hawk looks at what factors are helping keep things calm for now.
For us here in the Atlantic and Gulf Basin, our hurricane season has been around for almost 2 weeks now, and we really haven't seen a whole lot of activity, whereas our friends over in the Pacific have already had 4 named storms as of today. And one of the reasons we're not seeing a whole lot of activity right now is because of Saharan dust. Now, this is going to be coming off of West Africa. It's going to be lofted up into the air and blown over top of the Atlantic. And when it comes to tropical systems, you're going to need a couple key ingredients. One, an abundance of moisture, and you're also going to want sea temperatures to generally be above 80 degrees. And as that dust makes its way over top of the Atlantic, since it is so dry, it's going to suck the atmosphere of all of that moisture, and it's also going to prevent that sunlight from reaching the sea surface to help it warm up to the temperatures that we need. So we're really just going to have to wait and see how long in the Atlantic and Gulf. We'll have to wait before we get some tropical development.
Well, now to Oregon, where firefighters are making progress battling a wildfire. Now, it's been burning east of Portland since last week. The fire is now 10% contained after burning over 3,600 acres. So far, the fire destroyed more than 50 homes and 90 other structures. As Shelby Slaughter shows us, residents are returning to heaps of ash and uncertainty about what comes next.
Go and see it, and everything you've worked hard for is just a bunch of ashes.
Gone in a matter of minutes.
It does seem real.
This is Shane, or Uncle Horse for people who know him personally, as he digs through the rubble of what used to be his 2-story loft.
Like, look, the rims.
Looking for anything to salvage, including some you can't replace.
The heartbreaking part of it is we're still trying to see if the pets are here.
So far, he's had no luck finding his 2 cats, telling me he wasn't home when the fire started.
And having a meeting and it went well, and with your friends, and just not expecting that call to be like, by the way, you're going to lose everything you worked hard for in about 5 minutes.
Most of Shane Street looks like this, his neighbors' houses mirroring his own. And burnt car after burnt car after burnt car, sitting untouched until these fires can be contained, as the people who call these lots home figure out what's next.
Well, meantime, a wildfire burning in southern New Jersey is now 80% contained. It was first spotted on Friday by a private airplane flying over the area. Now, so far, it's burned more than 5,000 acres. People across the region could smell the smoke yesterday, but conditions are expected to improve today. All evacuation orders have also been lifted. Well, check this out. NASA released new video of coronal mass ejections shooting out from the sun. The space agency used 4 cameras to stitch together this video. So what you're seeing are coronal mass ejections, or CMEs, traveling from the sun out into the solar system. Well, coming up on the National Weather Desk, summer is just around the corner, meaning more time in the sun. We'll show you ways to help protect yourself from the risk of skin cancer. And you might think swimming in a lake is a great way to cool off, but we'll tell you why those lake waters could be dangerous.
watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, let's check to see the weather in cities across North America today. And we will start in Banff National Park in the Canadian Rockies. That's close to where this week's G7 summit is being held. And today's weather there looks great. Sunny skies and a high of 71 degrees. Next up is Philadelphia, where a cloudy morning will turn into kind of a gray and rainy day. It's also going to be cool for this time of year, with highs only reaching the mid-60s. And up next, we head west to Oklahoma City, where it certainly is going to feel more like summer. They're expecting mostly sunny skies today with highs in the upper 80s. And our final stop is in northern Michigan and the famous Mackinac Bridge. And it should be a pretty good day as we count down to summer that starts on Friday. Mackinac Island will be partly cloudy today with a high of 68 degrees. Well, the start of summer means many of us will be spending more time outside in the sun. But every year, 5 million Americans are diagnosed with skin cancer. Now, there are things that you can do to protect yourself. Barbara Morse outlines what you need to know.
Skin cancer affects actually more Americans yearly than all other cancer diagnoses combined.
By the age of 70, 1 in 5 Americans will be diagnosed. And while melanoma accounts for just 1% of all skin cancers, it is by far the most deadly. So who should be screened?
If you have a personal or family history of skin cancer, fair skin, have had sunburns in the past too, definitely should be someone who's getting their skin looked at.
And be on the lookout for any new or changing moles. For men, one of the most common spots on the skin for cancer is the back. For women, the back of the legs, places we don't necessarily check. Which brings us to prevention measures. Dr. Tiffany Libby, a dermatologist at Brown Dermatology, says it begins with sunscreen.
We want you to look for SPF 30 or higher. SPF 30 is going to block out 97% of UVB rays. 2 is broad spectrum coverage. So you want to make sure it's covering your UVA, UVB rays. Those are both UV radiation rays that come from the sun that can cause skin cancer. And then the third is water resistant.
Also know that doesn't mean it's waterproof, so it needs to be reapplied every 90 minutes or so. And pay attention to how much you apply. Studies show we don't put on enough. A shot glass full is what you need to adequately cover your exposed skin.
And that's equivalent to an ounce. So you think of that as a teaspoon for the face.
So which is best, lotion or spray? Lotion, for this very reason.
I've definitely seen on the beach when people are using the spray sunscreens and they're kind of just generously misting, but they're not really getting a lot of it on their skin.
At this point, there are really no clear-cut recommendations on cancer screenings, but it is recommended you check your own skin front and back in a mirror or have your partner do it.
Well, as summer draws people to the Great Lakes, the allure of a refreshing dip can mask hidden dangers lurking beneath the surface. Meteorologist Audrey Lee has more.
Summer in Wisconsin is all about making memories at the lake. But even on a hot day, the water can still feel surprisingly cold. And it can be more than just a shock to the system. It can be dangerous.
I got 2 thermometers here with me. This one's going to measure the top surface of the lake, and that's going to float just on the top layer. So here we go. Then I got this one, which is tied to a rope as well, but it's longer, and it's actually going to sink deeper in the water. So we're going to throw that right over the water. The one at the surface is reading roughly right around 68, 70 degrees for that top layer. Now, this is the thermometer that is deeper in the lake. Now, keep in mind, this is definitely a smaller lake, but it's reading roughly between about 65 degrees, give or take.
But not all lakes are built the same. Shallow lakes with smaller surface areas warm faster. But bigger, deeper lakes take a lot longer to heat up, even after a heat wave. Much of the water below the surface stays cold. Wind also plays a role. When wind blows across a big lake, it stirs the water and mixes the warm top layer with the cold water underneath, almost like stirring a cold drink. This keeps the lake cooler. For smaller lakes, they don't stir as much, so they warm up faster. But the cold water can be more than just uncomfortable. Cold water shock happens when your body hits water that's colder than 70 degrees. In just a few minutes, cold water can overwhelm your body. Your chest tightens, breathing speeds up, and gasp reflex can cause someone to inhale water. Without a life jacket, drowning becomes a real risk. even close to shore. So before you dive in, make sure you know what you're getting into and check the water temperature, especially if kids are swimming.
Well, have you ever heard of radiational cooling? Well, it's a good weather term to know, and meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell explains what it is.
Well, hi there, everybody. It's meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell checking in from the Seattle area, where we're heading deeper into spring. And while we've had these beautiful warm afternoons, lots of sunshine, we're still getting these really chilly nights, even getting near freezing in parts of the South Sound. And that's simply because clear nights are the colder kind of nights. When you don't have a lot of cloud cover, you tend to get kind of chilly as the night goes on and you head toward dawn. During the day, we've got solar radiation coming down from the sun, slowly warming us up. And of course, without any cloud cover in the way, we are able to pull in a lot of that solar radiation and warm up very nicely. That's been the case around western Washington and perhaps your neck of the United States of late. But at night, the same clear skies that let the heat in start to let it back out, because after the sun has gone down, all of that warmth starts to escape back out towards space. Now, if we have some cloud cover, that tends to tuck us in and keep the warmth at the surface such that our temperatures don't get too terribly chilly. But on clear nights, again, after we've had a sunny day, we get those gorgeous clear nights, all of that heat is able to keep on going. No cloud cover to hold it in, and it ends up very chilly by dawn. From the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell.
Well, you may be familiar with rainbows and what's needed for them to form in the sky. But what about double rainbows? Meteorologist Teresa Carter shows what's needed for you to see them.
Many people believe seeing a double rainbow is rare. However, they're not as rare, since in most cases, the double rainbow is there. We just can't see it. Double rainbows form in the same way as a single rainbow. They form when sun hits a raindrop and light bends or refracts. When sunlight hits the drop, the light reflects off the back of the drop and bends again as light exits the raindrop. Now, a double rainbow happens when light is reflected twice in a drop. That is why we see two different reflections deriving from different angles. The higher secondary rainbow is usually more faint in color than the main rainbow. When you see a double rainbow, notice the second rainbow has a different color pattern than the first one. Typically, the first rainbow is going to show red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet in that order. However, since there are two reflections happening from the same raindrop, there's a higher amount of light escaping, causing the second, fainter rainbow to show the same colors but in reverse. So the next time you see a double rainbow, take a closer look at the colors. It is a beautiful sight to see.
Well, time now for a short break, but first we take in views over Lake Powell in Arizona.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, weather impacts nearly all aspects of our lives, including a favorite pastime, baseball. Meteorologist Eric Castriva explains how.
Well, baseball season is in full swing, and I know we'll have a lot of games that maybe you yourself will be visiting here this weekend. If it is going to be a little bit on the cooler side, you may see less runs happening, or at least less home runs, because of the weather. So the weather actually plays a pretty integral part in how far the ball can travel. When it's a little bit cooler, that air is denser, making it not as easy for the ball to stay in the air rather than being pushed down, which would likely result in an out or maybe a long out closer to the warning track. When it's humid and warm, it's a little bit less dense. So we have some of the water in the air. It's less heavier, so that ball can actually move a little bit further with less drag and potentially end up as a home run.
Well, we'd love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back.